of on radio. So it's been a long journey being in and around technology and media as a whole. So, as we get together tonight, guys, this is generational implications. So the work that we start tonight is going to set the stage to protect our children from a whole new set of dangers. And this really started back in May of this year. I spoke on a panel in Naples on AI, and I made the statement that the reason that people in the room were afraid of AI is because the proper biblical worldview and moral compass was almost non-existent. But they could change it with three things: their knowledge, their relationships, and their resources. And I believe that we can do the same thing here starting tonight. So after talking with Keith, we were convinced that something needed to be done, and the idea for the symposium was born. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the state of the state in three parts. First, we'll discuss how we got here. Second, we'll talk about all the dangers that we face. And third, we'll land the plane and talk about what we have to do to win. Everybody good? Rules of engagement down. Excellent. So let me set the stage for you. Imagine a seventh grader. This could be your child. This could be your grandchild. Imagine they walk in the house and do the things that kids normally do. Throw off the backpack, raid the snacks. Everything's normal until they proudly tell you, I don't need to think anymore. I found a program that does my homework for me. It's not science fiction, friends. It's not 10 years from now. That is happening right now in homes all across the United States. Children created in the image of our Heavenly Father, gifted with minds for reason, creativity, and truth, are being told by machines, don't bother, I'll do the thinking for you. Now, if that unsettles you, family, it should. But here's the truth. It didn't happen overnight. AI in the classroom isn't an accident. It's the next chapter in a story that's been brewing for over a century. So, over 100 years ago, John Dewey reshaped what we call modern education. In textbooks, he's celebrated as the father of progressive education. But what those textbooks won't tell you is what he really believed. You see, friends, Dewey was an avowed Marxist, openly sympathetic to the ideals that it entails. You see, he didn't see education as the pursuit of truth. Instead, he saw it as a means to mold children into servants of the state. I have probably burst your bubble on the entire Industrial Revolution in one sentence. Like the Oracle in the Matrix, I'm sorry, I truly am. I wish I had better news. I do towards the end. So, in his 1985 piece, Who Killed Excellence, Samuel Blumenfeld states that Dewey, quote, identified high literacy as the culprit in traditional education, the sustaining force behind individualism. Let that sink in for a second. If you think about it, the goal wasn't knowledge. It was control. And the strategy was subtle. Dewey didn't try to tear down the system overnight. He did what most do, planted seeds that would grow slowly, while us, parents, pastors, community, we go on about our lives blissfully unaware of what's happening in the classroom. Instead of creating a curriculum that would promote socialism, Dewey did something significantly more nefarious. He created one that would dilute literacy. That way, socialism could be easily inserted into the educational system. Now, at this point in the presentation, people usually look at me and say, RC, you are out of your mind. Why would I believe you? Well, don't take my word for it. Take the word of former President Woodrow Wilson, if you would. The use of a university, except for this one, is to make young gentlemen as unlike their fathers as possible. Yeah. Didn't see that coming tonight, did you? Oh. So let's do this. Picture a farmer who ignores his fields. One season, then another. The crops weaken, weeds take over, and by the time he looks out, his land doesn't look like his land anymore. It looks like someone else owns it. Friends, that's what's happened to American education. You see, in the 1800s, the Bible was a primary textbook in schools. Children learned to read using Scripture. They were taught not only letters and words, but truth and wisdom. Yet by the mid-1900s, That foundation was gone. Bible was pushed out. Morality was redefined. And today, students are told that there is no absolute truth. See a pattern? Let me help. Many educators, politicians, tech executives are telling us that AI will make classrooms more efficient, more diverse, and more equal. All the buzzwords of a society that is actively trying to be God. Let that sink in for a sec. Hear me on this, though. AI didn't walk into a neutral space. It walked into a battlefield where truth has already been under assault for over 100 years. That's why it feels so dangerous. Not because the technology itself is evil, it's a tool, but because the worldview that's driving it is rotten at the core. Let's continue. Let's talk a little bit about the dangers we face. So AI is not just another tool. Many in this room would agree. Let me get here. It's the most powerful technology that has ever been unleashed on education. And here's the question that matters most. Who controls it? Because right now it's not you. It's not parents, it's not your local school board, it's DC, it's Silicon Valley, where I spent a number of years. It's unelected bureaucrats and tech giants who want to decide what your child sees, hears, and believes. That feels or sounds familiar? It is because you see it and hear it every single day. So just last year, a fine political organization called Leading the Future was launched. Don't they always do that with the names? They make it sound really good, and you know it's not good, right? So on the surface, this sounds noble. They say they want to advance good AI policy. But when you peel back the onion on this one, here's what it means. Federally and centrally controlled, one-size-fits-all standards that strip states and parents of any say in the outcome. Now, if this sounds somewhat familiar to you, I'll take you on a short trip down memory lane. Everyone remember the One Big Beautiful Bill. You may or may not remember that they tried to sneak a provision into that bill to put a moratorium on AI legislation from the states for a period of 10 years. Big thanks to Joe Allen, who could not be with us tonight, who is a regular on Steve Bannon's War Room. He complained so much that Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, decided to block it in the Senate. So here's the challenge. The federal government will tell you they need 10 years to do what? We still don't know. But they said, look, we need to build a framework for this to work. Anybody remember the Affordable Care Act? Obamacare? You remember Obama, like red line Obama, that's not a red line? Okay. So, who wrote that bill? Big pharma, big health, big tech. What do you think is going to happen if there's a 10-year moratorium on states not having a say in what happens with AI? The broligarchs, as Steve Bannon likes to call them, will be the ones that write the legislation. Here's a tip. If you don't pay attention to those you send to represent your interests, I can promise you that they will represent their interests. Everybody agree? Friends, that's not innovation, that's a takeover. Let me paint another picture for you. Oops, sorry, too fast. There we go. So let's say your kid's assigned an essay on the war for independence. They open an AI program. It produces a flawless essay. Perfect grammar, perfect structure. But faith, liberty, the Bible's influence on the founders, gone. Instead, it emphasizes oppression, inequality, and a revisionist version of history. Who decided that? Who programmed what your child now believes about their own country? Friends, that's the danger. You see, a biased teacher can influence maybe 30 students at a time. A textbook, maybe a generation, a little more before it's replaced. But AI, in its current status, never sleeps. Today, it repeats much of the same bias thousands or millions of times without pause, conscience, or end. And you're being told that this is progress. It's efficient, that it prepares kids for the future. But ask yourself this incredibly difficult question. Would you let a stranger whisper in your child's ear all day long, every day, shaping their thoughts? Of course you wouldn't. Yet that's exactly what unfiltered AI is doing in classrooms and to kids today. Now, if I can take a moment, I'd like to introduce you to two parents. This is about 90 seconds. Megan Garcia and Matthew Rain. They were in Washington, D.C. recently, and I'd like for you to hear what they had to say.
Last year, my oldest son, Sewell Setter III, died by suicide. He was just 14 years old. Sewell's death was the result of prolonged abuse by AI chatbots on a platform called Character AI. Sewell's death was not inevitable. It was avoidable. These companies knew exactly what they were doing. They designed chatbots to blur the lines between human and machine. They designed them to love bomb child users, to exploit psychological and emotional vulnerabilities. They designed them to keep children online at all costs. The truth is, AI companies and their investors have understood for years that capturing our children's emotional dependence means market dominance.
Let us tell you as parents, you cannot imagine what it's like to read a conversation with a chatbot that groomed your child to take his own life. In sheer numbers, over the course of a 6-month relationship, ChatGPT mentions suicide 1,275 times. 6 times more often than Adam did himself. We, as Adam's parents, as people who care about the young people in this country and around the world, have one request. OpenAI and Sam Altman need to guarantee that ChatGPT is safe. If they can't, they should pull GPT 4.0 from the market right now.
Friends, you may think at this point that I'm someone who absolutely hates AI. It is actually the opposite. I co-founded a business that specializes largely in AI. My wife and I, Juliana's in the audience, will moderate a panel later. Understanding that, the capability we have, we had to draw a red line. Not an Obama red line, an actual red line that people don't step over. Okay. We had to turn down life-changing money and opportunities because we would not do the things that the people who were offering that wanted us to do with the technology or with our capability. So you see, I don't hate it. I think its innovations can do wonders. But where is the biblical worldview and moral compass in this conversation? Here's my question for you as the plane circles and we get ready to land it. Will we have the courage to draw that line before it's too late? So, where do we go from here? It's not enough to see the history. Now you know the danger. What do we do next? The answer comes down to 3 things: clarity, courage, and connection. I'll explain quickly. Courage to see AI for what it is. It's not neutral and not harmless. It carries the worldview of those who design it. If the designers erase truth, then AI will teach children to erase truth. If the designers strip out morality, then AI will teach children that morality doesn't exist. This is why discernment is essential. Courage, because it takes courage to push back. It takes courage for parents to stand up and support school board members like Mr. Tatum who say, not in my child's classroom or any child's classroom without the proper guidelines. Courage for state leaders to balance their relationship with the federal government and to represent their citizens' interests, and the courage to build alternatives like our friends at Florida Citizens Alliance. Schools, tools, and the safeguards to reflect the values that we've come to hold dear. And connection. You don't get to be a lone wolf in this battle. There are a number of people in the room who understand the power of connection. Scott and Jill Kiley are in the room tonight. You'll hear from Scott a little bit later on a panel. They stood bravely. They put together a formula, and you know what they did? They got fluoride out of the water throughout the state of Florida. That deserves a round of applause. You see, friends, they recognized very early on that no one can do this alone. It's part of the reason you're here tonight. Maybe you don't know why you came, but your father knew why you came. So here's the good news. This is what the rest of the evening's about. And remember, like the people I spoke to in Naples, you have the knowledge, the relationships, and the resources where you are right now. So in closing, here's my challenge to you. Don't just sit back and listen. Don't treat tonight like another conference. Ask yourself this: what will I do with what I hear? One other thing, by the way. That's our grandson, Aiden. Now, I know based on the look on my face, you can't tell who the child is in that picture. But I can certainly assure you that I am the grandpa and Aiden is the grandson, regardless of the look on my face. Friends, that picture is up there because that's what this fight is about. What world will Aiden or your equivalent inherit? Tonight, I ask you to engage, to listen, and to take action. Thank you.